It was. Last week they won by 72 and then they've beaten Sydney by 89. Their two biggest challenges, it was their ball use more than their running. I know this is a running goal, but it's the way they used the football which was the key. They had the same amount of inside 50s. Isaac Smith just run them off their feet. This man, Jared Ruffhead, was back with 5. They helped him out. They looked for him wherever they went. But it's the way they use the ball. They use the ball better than any side in the history of the game right now.
Sorry, I was going to say, you were there, Nathan. You mentioned Big Ruff, and he was back. He looked a bit lighter. I think he's been eating out of a straw for the last couple of weeks. He's dropped a couple of kilos.
And the moustache going.
Started in the centre bounce, which is amazing in itself, but he was back in town. He was getting plenty of footy around the ground and then got on the end of a few as well. And you just see he's such a barometer for the Hawks.
He's a fantastic player.
He's a great player.
He does not get his kudos, does he?
No, he probably doesn't. He lived in the shadow, of course, of Bud for years, but they're so even, Nath, that sometimes, Ruff bobbing up and kicking 5 just gets lost in translation a bit.
When he's got 4 premierships come the end of his career, no one will mind. But, Paulie, I just want to ask you a question about them. Some will say, can you peak too early? But they don't rely on individuals, do they? So they're a class above at the moment. Yeah,
they are. They're very even. They've got some depth in the twos. They rotate their rucks really well. McAvoy was great last night. With Segler in the twos and a few others.
Individual goal.
12. They seem to do that every week,
They
Bill.
throw it around.
Yeah, they were very good.
Oh, all right.
Same amount of inside 50s last night. More contested footy for Sydney. More disposals. So you look at it and you wonder, how did they win by 89 points? Well, it's the way they use the ball, the way they enter inside 50. Have a look at the way Sydney do it. Now, they should be going quick play here. They should be getting the ball and going inside 50. But these blokes aren't really tearing inside forward 50. The only spot when he looks up is to go wide. And it just stagnates. Hawthorn get all the way back. You should never kick the ball inside 50 from backwards of centre unless you've got a free man. This is Sam Reid just bombing it in to no one. This is Brian Lake's all over this sort of stuff. And then the last one. This is where you get it and go. This is where Sydney have really dropped off their ball movement. You've got to go here. He has to take the ball and go or feed to a player. But what Brandon Jack does is he just holds it up. Look at all the Hawthorn players get back. Conversely, have a look at Hawthorn. And this is part of Sydney's problem as well. The lack of pressure. Look at the Hawthorn players doing what they want. Look at the amount of options Luke Hodges got to choose from here. So an easy just kick into the middle. Jack Gunston does really well, ends up kicking this goal. And then the best player of the night was this one. This is why Hawthorn play. This is why they're the best. Have a look at that kick to Lewis, and then he's always got the runner. Isaac Smith being the runner through the middle of the ground. Sydney just can't keep up with this sort of ball movement. In the end, Jack Gunston kicks a goal here. Same amount of inside 50s, but the Hawks are probably the premiership favourites again.
Well done, Nathan. We'll get you early next time, I promise. We will. We'll give you all the time you need, mate. No problem. Good profile building stuff there. Now,
good.
The Swans, are they spooked now by the Hawks? Are you really worried about them?
Well, I am worried about them, but I saw it coming last week. I thought they struggled to beat Brisbane at the Gabba. So they're not going that well. I think you're right, Brownie. Their pressure isn't good enough. And one man...
Can they still win the flag?
I don't think so.
No.
I know it's still, the grand final's still 10 weeks away, but I think they've got no depth whatsoever. And that they're just not playing well enough, and they rely too much on Franklin. We talk about it all the time, but you look at Kurt Tippett. We've got some vision of him. I think it's for what he's on. Even if he wasn't on that amount, he's still not doing enough. He's a big man. Didn't take any marks yesterday. 8 disposals, Bully.
Is he sore, Lloyd? Has he got his hand wrapped up like a mummy at one stage?
It's not, I suppose that was yesterday, but he's kicked 25 goals. So a lot of clubs would love to take a man who's kicked 25 goals, but just doesn't impact the game enough. He and Sam Reid, Brownie, I think, with Franklin around, they don't assert themselves on the game, which is an issue.
Well, they got them up there to be the two-pronged attack, and unfortunately Tippett's not paying his way at the moment. Franklin kicked 3 goals in 3 minutes and set them alight last night, but just didn't have the supply. It's not working, Tippett, at the moment. That's why he's in the ruck. Mike Pike went out, but their problem is in the defensive end with Grundy and Richards, who have really dropped off.
And the problem is the stadium, Damo. ANZ Stadium, it's got to go.
Massive player safety issue last night, Bill. This is Jared Ruffhead being pushed after kicking one of his goals last night. And you don't really know why, when you first see this, why he reacts the way he does. But you then notice the exposed bolts that are on the concrete part of that, where the stadium fence meets the grass. And it's just simply unacceptable for that to be signed off as an AFL venue. The stadium itself issued this statement last night after the AFL asked it to do so. that officials are working with the AFL to investigate this matter. Any risk to player safety is clearly unacceptable and is taken very seriously by stadium management. Well, not seriously enough to leave that exposed. This morning, only moments ago, the AFLPA has issued this in partial. It is completely unacceptable from an occupational health and safety perspective to have players exposed to a dangerous situation like that. It goes on to say it is particularly disappointing given the issues we've had with the venue previously, including metal pegs being found on the playing surface during a game and generally substandard playing surface conditions. We'll just go on to what Jared Ruffhead himself said last night when asked about the matter post-match.
Oh, well, mate, as you can imagine, it wasn't nice. Sliding, you wouldn't have think that there'd be some exposed bolts there during a game, but yeah, you can tell by that vision that it didn't really feel nice, and when you see him there, it's pretty dangerous, I reckon.
When you got up, did you glance down? You would have been shocked at what you saw, I guess.
Yeah, well,
Ruffy.
as you saw the bolts there, and I didn't really think that. I noticed late in the game they were covering, but that's probably 3.5 quarters too late, isn't it?
It's all very well for everyone to be saying this morning it's unacceptable, and yes it is, but the AFL signs off on a venue that's to be used for a game of footy. The two clubs sign off on the ground, Hutchie, too, before
They're
it's
Mickey
used.
Mouse ground searches, aren't they?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, why bother doing them?
Set up for rugby league, isn't it?
Well, it's unacceptable.
They don't understand AFL.
No, but Brownie, it's not even that. I mean, what's stopping someone walking out onto the ground and noticing that before it started and said, we're not playing this game until that's fixed? Then it's no good. It's not good enough to actually notice it after the event, after someone could have had his back ripped out.
Might be semantics, Damo, but they'd expect the turf, I'd imagine. They probably don't go to the extremities of the ground and inspect the gutters.
Well, I mean, as Ian Prendergast or the AFLPA has said in that statement, there have been metal pegs found on that ground before too. It's a shambles for the AFL. They're still contractually bound to use it next year, but I think a bit like the Etihad Stadium situation in Victoria, I think those contracts are being revisited. And I reckon if they break a contract,
can they break a contract? Can the AFL go to them and go, well, you haven't provided a safe playing environment for our players. This contract's null and void.
No, that wouldn't be a matter. That wouldn't be a reason enough to break the contract. They will be trying to break the contract, but not reason enough.
Real Madrid, it is. The Real Madrid coach, Rafa Benitez, turned up to the MCG, wasn't happy with the service. Imagine he turns up to ANZ Stadium. That's just appalling, and we talk about it every year.
Yeah, it's fallen a long way from being an Olympic venue to being half a laughing stock at the moment.
Well, there's even weeds growing out from the advertising hoardings there on the outer wing. It's just not up to standard, and it won't be used anyway beyond next season anyway.
Boomer Harvey, 400 games next week. This gets